While fish is one of the single best whole food sources of quickly absorbable protein and inflammation-modulating fats for athletes, some intensively farmed fish from poorly regulated systems can contain antibiotic residues and harbor antibiotic-resistant bacteria. These residues are not reliably removed by cooking or freezing, and routine antibiotic use in aquaculture selects for resistant microbes that can spread through water, sediment, and the food chain, a public health risk that also undermines the effectiveness of antibiotics in human medicine. Pregnant people, young children, immunocompromised individuals, and anyone worried about contributing to antibiotic resistance should be especially mindful of sourcing. Now the good news. Fish delivers practical, performance-relevant nutrition in a way very few other foods do. Most common edible fish provide a high proportion of essential amino acids in a form that's rapidly digested and used for muscle protein synthesis, a critical factor for recovery after resistance training or intense endurance work. A typically sized cooked portion, about 100 to 150 g, commonly supplies roughly 20 to 35 g of high-quality protein, meaning a single fish meal can meet an athlete's post-workout protein target without the gastrointestinal heaviness some feel after large portions of red meat. Fatty species such as salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout also deliver long-chain omega-3s, EPA and DHA, which have been associated with reduced exercise-induced inflammation, attenuated muscle soreness, improved endothelial function and blood flow, and potential benefits for recovery and cognitive function during heavy training cycles. Beyond protein and omega-3s, fish contributes important micronutrients for athletes: selenium and iodine for thyroid function and metabolic rate, B vitamins for energy metabolism, and vitamin D in fatty species, which supports bone health, immune resilience, and muscle function in people who are deficient. Altogether, these nutrients make fish an excellent, compact recovery food that supports strength, endurance, and resilience to training stress. But how do antibiotics show up in fish, and why should athletes care? In many intensive aquaculture systems, producers have historically used antibiotics to prevent or treat disease outbreaks in crowded pens or tanks. Where veterinary oversight, withdrawal time enforcement, or environmental controls are weak, antibiotic molecules can persist in fish tissue at detectable levels. Even where residues are low or below regulatory maximum limits, repeated consumption of such products can contribute to selection pressure for resistant bacteria in the farm environment. Those resistant bacteria, or resistance genes they carry, can travel beyond the farm through water and farm effluent and can be transmitted to humans via handling or, less commonly, through the food itself. While eating a single piece of farmed fish is unlikely to cause immediate harm for most healthy adults, the cumulative, population-level impacts on antibiotic resistance are a real concern, and individuals who consume large amounts of farmed fish from unverified sources increase their personal exposure. Practical, evidence-based steps let athletes keep the advantages of fish while reducing risk. First, prefer fish from well-regulated producers or certified programs that limit or monitor antibiotic use. Reliable certification schemes to look for include, but are not limited to, Aquaculture Stewardship Council, ASC, Best Aquaculture Practices, BAP, and Global GEAD. ADP. Some organic aquaculture standards also restrict antibiotic use. These programs typically require better disease management, lower stocking densities, improved feed and hygiene practices, and transparency about chemical use. Second, vary species and sources rather than relying on a single farmed species every day, mixing wild-caught low-residue options, where appropriate, with certified farmed fish reduces the chance of repeated exposure to residues from a single problematic source. Smaller, lower trophic species such as sardines, anchovies, and some shellfish are often less intensively farmed and may carry lower residue risk simply because they are lower on the food chain or wild-caught, though local conditions matter. Third, buy from retailers and brands that publish testing results or have independent third-party testing. Many reputable suppliers now make contaminant and antibiotic use data accessible on their websites or packaging. Fourth, consider the country of origin and the traceability of the product. Countries with strong aquaculture regulation and oversight typically have better monitoring and enforcement of withdrawal periods and residue limits. Be realistic about what preparation can and cannot do. Cooking destroys live bacteria, but does not reliably break down antibiotic molecules. Freezing merely slows microbial activity and does not remove residues. Trimming skin or fat is not an effective strategy for removing antibiotic residues because many antibiotics distribute through muscle tissue, not just fat. The only real way to reduce antibiotic residue exposure is to choose products from farms that use antibiotics sparingly, follow proper withdrawal times, or avoid problematic drugs altogether. For athletes focused on recovery, adding antioxidant-rich foods, berries, leafy greens, and diverse micronutrient sources to the diet supports overall resilience, but does not negate the need for responsible sourcing. From a performance planning point of view, practical targets help. For most athletes, aiming for a fish-based meal 2 to 4 times per week, prioritizing certified or wild-caught options and rotating species, provides both ample high-quality protein for recovery and a useful supply of omega-3s without over-relying on any single source. Post-workout, a 100 to 150 g portion of cooked fish paired with a carbohydrate source and vegetables gives a balanced stimulus for glycogen repletion and muscle repair. Some athletes and sports nutritionists also deliberately supplement with concentrated fish oil to reach a specific EPA plus DHA target, commonly in the 1 to 3 g/day range for anti-inflammatory support during heavy training, while selecting supplements produced under strict quality controls that test for residues. If you go this route, choose reputable brands that provide certificate of analysis documentation. Finally, take a systems view. Individual consumer choices are important, but collective demand drives industry practices. Support retailers and producers who demonstrate responsible antibiotic stewardship. Ask questions at your fish counter or from your supplier about farming practices and testing, and, where possible, favor supply chains that publish surveillance data. If you're an athlete with high food intake and a strong reliance on farmed fish, for example, daily consumption, consider consulting a sports dietitian to design a rotation plan that meets your protein and omega-3 goals while reducing exposure risk. If you want, I can produce a species-by-species breakdown of protein and omega-3 content, typical serving sizes, and known antibiotic use risk by farmed species, including which certifications best apply to each, so you have a practical shopping and meal plan tailored to athletic needs.